capacity to channel this energy that is this life force energy, which includes, you know, the ability to be psychic and the ability to divine and the ability to birth and the ability to grieve. There are indigenous cultures all over the planet still in existence today, often turn to the women to move grief through the village, through the tribe, because there is some way in which women are built, some capacity we have that works as a vessel, that works as a you know, a portal through which these extreme, large emotions and experiences can come through. And we've been taught to be terrified of them. Please just make it narrow, shave, and cover up, and at all costs, don't let that happen. So I work with women who can't find their orgasm, and that is one tragic side effect of this acculturation of fear for women, fear of our own capacity to channel the magnitude of sexual energy that's possible.
So what is possible if men and women are able to walk through this gateway? What is actually possible?
Well, you can see the profound possibility here, and this sort of relies on what we call heterosexuality, but it is true that the union of the masculine and feminine are what makes all of this possible. So we're going to stay with that for the moment and imagine what's possible if it's true that for men to be invited back into their beautiful wild nature, what is necessary is a sacred and loving witness, a nurturing, gentle witness, fierce and gentle. And for women, what's necessary to allow themselves to move into their fear and be held in strength, in a capacity of sensing bedrock underneath them. Here we've got the masculine who wants nothing more than that. So the potential for this reciprocal healing is extraordinary, and I see it every day. Somebody, I think it was my husband, who just came up with this incredible phrase, because we like to say collateral damage, and he said, well, what about collateral healing? And so I use that in my practice now, that it's this masculine feminine is a place of extraordinary collateral healing, for the very thing that one is needing is so effortlessly provided, so it's longing to be provided in the other. So that's a very big portion of what the rewilding is all about, is inviting us back into this relationship.
How does
I think did your camera just go off?
No, I'm just checking. How does then the earth how does the earth play a role in this, in the rewilding, in the being witness, in the moving through fear?
Yeah, the earth is where we get all of our permission and our reminders of what we are. So the earth, even despite what has happened to the earth and the systems in the earth, of the earth and on the earth, as a result of our human occupancy here, the wild is right here. And it's the only place we can go to remember what is possible in us, what lives in us, and as an innate way of being. So we can't do the rewilding without having some practice that is, daily, weekly, whatever is possible, which includes a daily moment by moment awareness of what's going on out there, but to deliver ourselves out back into the wild, where we don't, where all of the constructs that we rely on to keep ourselves numbed are no longer available to us. That's an essential part of the process, of course, because that's our first language. What's happening out there right now with the falcons, the re-nesting, what's happening right now with the bears. They're just starting to stir. Birthing is happening in the dens while the mama bears are still hibernating. What's happening right now out there is our first language. And delivering ourselves back to our first language, letting ourselves hear those, those familiar, oh, that's right, that's what, I know that. I know the sound of that brook. I know what's being said here. Right, letting ourselves return is essential. It's essential. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What time is it?
It's 10 of 3. Mm-hmm. Oh wow. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And he's coming at 3?
I have a client coming at 3. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you open for one?
Let's go
one
for
fire
it.
question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 things. One thing I want to mention before the question, which is, as I was reading your blog again, I encountered your telling of your experience with the buck as you were masturbating, and there's something to that. There's something to that experience that it feels really really rich.
Yes.
I love to explore. And there's a final question to wrap this, which is, where do we move? Where do we go from here? What are some next steps that we can take as a culture, as individuals first, as men and women?
Yeah. Well, let's see. Yes, so the experience that you're describing, that I wrote about in my blog, of having this intimate moment with this buck, is an experience that I have had over and over again in my life, and again is how I started and what led me into this whole thing, this whole process of rewilding and being such a fierce advocate and witness for our human capacity. And it's a whole fabulous conversation on its own, and I just want to acknowledge that that's how I started in this work, or how it found me. And then to come into the second question of first steps, after all this talk about sex and orgasm and ecstasy and altered states of consciousness and all this incredible stuff, our first and most important step, our first and most important thing to do is to tell the truth. Just tell the truth. Start telling the truth of your experience. Hold ourselves accountable to what's actually happening. And that's a vast invitation, because many of us can't even remember how to listen anymore, let alone find the courage to speak what's actually happening. But nothing is going to happen unless we can tell the truth. Everything we need still lives in us on a daily basis. Every response, every wisdom, every piece of our unique indigenous language, mine, yours, is living vitally. God bless it that it has survived. It's in us right now. So any possible way that we can, as individuals, families, partnerships, communities, invite each other to tell the truth, hold each other accountable to the truth. What's really happening? What are you really feeling? Right here, without judgment, only curiosity. Tell the truth. That's the practice. That's the practice. What a phenomenal way to spend an hour and a half.